Margaret Ireri, MD Ipsos Innovate Kenya. That was a superb MindSpeak session to start off the year. You gave us so much, and I really learned so much from you. What were your impressions of MindSpeak today?
I felt the audience was very warm, excited, and they had really nice questions to ask. So, I mean, very interesting and exciting today.
And I think you got given some curveball questions about your personal life. I must congratulate you. You said you're going to be getting married this year, so really congratulations.
Thank you.
And you also said you've done a lot of your analysis. It's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yeah, you
For a
don't
prospective spouse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Margaret, you know you're one of the most successful women in Kenya today. You've been in the top 40 under 40 twice running. You shared with us a lot of the secrets of your success. From what I learned, you know, you appeared not to be hugely academic at college and at school, and you explained that you found situations, you were able to influence situations. What would you say is the secret of how you've got from there to here today?
A very simple formula. You work very hard.
Yes.
You need to read a lot to be aware of what's happening in the environment beyond the academics, and then you have to be disciplined, meaning that if you decide to take an action, you do it and do it and do it until you become perfect at it, and eventually the breakthrough will come.
You know, you were saying you used to get to work at 6, leave at 9. Were you the hardest working person in your office? Are you the same now? Do people in your office, do you find that if you meet people who are not as driven as you are, how do you react to those people? How do you encourage them to be more driven?
I would say that I did work hard. I mean, in my young years, I worked 12-hour days. I would work on Saturday, I would work on Sunday. And when I got to the next level, I then mentored people below me who would be able to continue doing the work. So the way I've been able to reduce the kind of hours that I work is basically get a very good team. However, in the team that I select hardworking people, smart people, and dependable people, and people who are consistent. All the rest in terms of academics is good, but these other principles are the most important. And if I can get a team that works that way, we work very well and we deliver fantastic results.
You called it the X factor that you look for when you're interviewing people. What is that X factor that you see, that you are able to intuit, that you don't see on a resume? I mean, you described many situations where you were the outlier and you were saying, no, this is not the right person. Is that just instinct, or is that something deeper, or what is it?
You see, if I look at you and I look at deeply into your eyes, I can tell whether you have passion and whether you're determined. If you don't have passion and you're not determined, then I'm sorry, I will not hire you. If you lack it, it means that when you come to the organization, you're just going to be providing average results and you're not actually putting more to deliver. But if I find a young person or even whatever age they are, that are looking to get a chance and are determined to get the job and look passionate enough to contribute significantly to the business, I will give them a job on the basis of that. And that's the X factor that I'm talking about. And
you were saying that, you charge a company about 3% of what it might spend on advertising for this research. So it's money well invested, really.
It is.
With a high return on
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why make a bad decision when you can use research to confirm whether your decision is likely to succeed or not?
Now, you've been in this science of polling for 12 years, I think you said it was. What are the big macro trends you're seeing over that 10, 12-year period that you can possibly share with us? What would you say, society, business, and then tell me what sort of opportunities you think there are?
Let's look at the consumer, and the Kenyan consumer.
Yes.
The obvious thing is that the population is increasing and the young generation is quite big. So you have a huge population of people aged between 0 years to about 30. It means that for any FMCG, that is a big population for you to sell your products and services. However, what you're finding is that the consumer is becoming more discerning. This is simply because the exposure to technology, exposure to media and many concepts. When a consumer goes to buy, they have much more information as compared to consumers 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So for any person seeking to recruit new consumers, new customers, it's not as easy as it was then. You have to have a strategy. You must be able to ensure that your product or service has an emotional appeal to your customers, and even after they bought the product, you have to keep your product relevant. So the consumer is discerning, has a lot of information, and companies have to keep abreast the consumer patterns. So that's one key thing. The other key thing we're seeing is that quite a number of companies are setting up shop in Kenya. And when they set up shop in Kenya, these are multinationals. They want data on the consumer. They want data on B2B consumers, and that kind of information is the information they're using for research. So here's a trend. Multinationals who are sitting here are using research data to inform their strategy, and sometimes I see the local companies not collecting enough data through research to inform their strategies. So how will they compete against these big giants who are coming into this market with a lot of information? I think that's an interesting trend for the local businesses to watch out for.
That's very interesting. And you know, with this multinationals, I mean, I see that in the likes of Google, Nestle, these big brands which have come and they've increased the size of their footprint. Is that are you seeing a big surge in that? I mean, does that speak to this sort of excitement around the African consumer? Everyone keeps talking about in the economics. In economics, people are saying there are more African middle class consumers than there are Indian consumers. And I know you got to catch a flight today. So is that really a big change, or is it a big acceleration, or is it something that's been continuously happening?
The things that have made a lot of international companies focus on Africa is mainly the global economic crisis, meaning they're not making as much money as they were making from those markets as compared to Africa. Then the other thing is that most multinationals have actually invested in many countries to a point where you can't keep on trying to get results. If you want to get organic growth, you have to look beyond other geographies. And what I say is that Africa is the last frontier, but it will be the most profitable frontier for some of these companies. If I look at the number of visits I get from international clients, they are increasing. And you can see they want to invest in this economy. And it's going to shake up this marketplace because it means that the Kenyan consumer will have high quality products, and will be able to compare local products with products that are manufactured by international companies. It's going to be a very exciting situation in Kenya.
Do we have local African businesses that you see are competing at this multinational level? Are there brands like that you are noticing that are able to compete at that level?
Yes, I mean, of course, there are indigenous brands that have been here for a long time.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
That continue to be market leaders, which is good. And I tend to think that if you're a market leader now as an indigenous company, the best thing that you can do is ensure that you create more distance between you and any of these multinational companies that are here. And the best way to do that is strategy. And strategy is informed by research. Bottom line, you're not going to win this game by doing the same things that you were doing a few years back before the multinationals came in. So I think that's what I would say about indigenous companies and the multinationals.
And now you spoke about this Generation Y, and obviously 60% of sub-Saharan Africa is Generation Y, essentially, right, under 30. And you've done lots of analysis on trends that you're seeing there. You made some very interesting comments that it's very technology savvy, they're surfing the internet, and it's all happened very, very recently. Are there any other characteristics you've noticed about, are we much more westernized now at that age group? Or do we still have a strong identity? How would you, what would you sort of pull together out of all this stuff you look at?
I'd like to describe the Generation Y as the Rolling Stones. They're always on the move, always on the move. Especially when it comes to career. And this is not even an observation in our firm. We actually did a study, and we found the Generation Y on average stay on a job between 1 to 2 years. Gone are the days when you used to stay on a job for 7 years. They'd stay on the job for 1 to 2 years. I've also seen that Generation Y expect to be managers within a very short time, meaning they're not willing to sit and wait for them to learn on the job. They want to move pretty fast. But here's a contrast. Generation Y, as I indicated, have a technology background. They're innovative. Generation Y question processes and situations, and those are the kind of questions that we need to hear so that we can improve our processes. So it has to be a balance. Young individual, great ideas, willing to go, and here's an organization that cannot move as fast as the Generation Y would like it to happen. So there has to be a point where the organization begins to see how to slow down the attrition levels for the Generation Y by providing the right environment where they can try out things, be innovative, and also be part of the decision-making process. That they see some decisions cannot be made as quickly as they'd like them to be. So it has to be a balance between two generations.
And are you seeing or some organizations being more nimble and more flexible and trying to reinvent themselves in the way you're describing?
I guess the global example would be Google, with all the ways that they've tried to...
You think that's an ideal organization for this generation?
It is. There's a study that we did, and we asked young people, which organization did you like to work for? And Google was tops.
Oh, really?
And when we asked them why, they said the work environment, from what they've read, is interesting, it's flexible. I mean, you can... There are quite a number of facilities in the organization that would make them relax and all that. However, Google is in a space of its own. If we look at reality check in Kenya, companies are still led by Generation X or even older generations. So it will take a bit of time for the generation change to happen, where the organizations then begin to provide an environment for Generation Y to flourish. But we as a company have taken it as a challenge because over 70% of our staff are Generation Y, and we just have to adopt. And somebody told me, it's not the Generation Y to change in the organization, it's actually we who are older to change, so that we're able to adopt the Generation Y, because those are the people who are going to be running our businesses in the next few years. So we are changing.
Now, you spoke a lot about politics. I think you've covered that completely. I just wanted to go back. You said you got President Obama. You scored it correctly as Ipsos Innovate. How does President Obama resonate in Africa? I remember the day when he first came into to power. We got a day off. The Americans didn't get a day off. I met everybody. They were very excited. What is brand Obama in Africa? How would you describe that? Is it a strong brand? Is it?
It is. We have done... I'd like to look at a period before Obama was in power, and we used to ask our questions to Kenyans or whichever country we went to, and we'd ask them, what is your opinion of the following countries? And we'd ask the US, the UK, China, and South Africa, and various countries. And if you look at the score before and after Obama came into power, there's been a change whereby people have a more favorable opinion about the US than they had before, and they feel closer to the US than they had before. And this is
so he's powerful, soft power.
Exactly. And you can only attribute it to the brand Obama that has driven this particular positive perception.
And then within the African continent, what are the most powerful African brands, would you say, that you can see? Can you see any sort of Mandela, obviously? But
let's look at individual brands. The brands that I've seen that are powerful would be a brand like MTN. A brand like Stanbic Bank. I mean, when you talk about banks across the various countries, you see that as a very strong brand. There are some brands from donors that are strong. If you talk about Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, people say, that I know that brand because they're doing something in my community. Bill Gates is a brand. So those are more international brands. However, if you look at individual local brands in Africa, I would say the brand that is homogeneous, that goes beyond borders, is definitely Mandela. Somebody like Desmond Bishop Tutu. Those are the footballers that are playing in the leagues outside. Those are the kind of brands that are known in Africa.
What are your ambitions for yourself now? I mean, you're at the top of your game. You're at the top of the polling business. I think there's no one I can think of who could have shared such deep insights into what you're doing. I think you laid to rest all those issues about you not being scientific. What challenges are you looking for?
I may surprise you. My challenge is not necessarily... I have a corporate challenge to grow the brand, and that's part of my JD. But I have a personal challenge, which I've said I must build the next generation of leaders. And it's not necessarily people who work for Ipsos, it's people who are all over. So if I can be able to touch the lives of many young people in whichever way, and the focus for me is research, teaching them how to look at data and make decisions. If I can do that, it means that the next generation of leaders will be people who process information and make decisions that are not gut feel, but are inspired by information. That's my vision. And if I do that, I know that I'll have touched a generation that will take Kenya to the next level. So sounds big, and that's the beauty about a vision. It should be big. I need to get to a point where I document how I'm going to get there.
Margaret, thank you so much for being a fantastic guest, and really thoroughly appreciated you being taking time to change your flight before you went to India.
Yeah.
And I look forward myself to collaborating with you further when you get back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Done?